Hi everyone, and welcome to our tutorial on Stellarium Web. This is a really great software for simulating what the sky can look like on any given day. With this program, you can adjust the time, the day, the location, and it will adjust what you would see in the sky accordingly. So to adjust the location, you go to the bottom left-hand side and you click on the location, and you can type in the name of a city. So right now I'm looking at Hamilton. And I would click on Hamilton and I would click use this location. Alternatively, you can click and drag the point on the map. So I'm going to click use this location. And if you want to adjust the day or the time, you go to the bottom right hand side, click the button there. It will pop up this little panel where you can adjust the second, the minute, the hour. You can also adjust the day, the month, the year to whatever time that you want to be looking at. Right now I have it set to April 5th, 2024 at 3 p.m. You can also click and drag the bar on the bottom and bring it from daytime to night and then back to daytime. And if you're looking between the date and the time, there is a pause and play option. So if you click the play button, it will progress the time forwards. If you hit the pause, it will pause the time. Above this, there is a clock icon, and this will go back to real time, so whatever time that you are using the simulator. But moving out of this is what you can expect from the simulator. You can click and drag to adjust the position that you're observing at. Right now, this is what it would look like for April 5th, 2024 at 3 p.m. So as you can see in this, in the simulator, the moon is in the sky, the sun is also in the sky, and it's highlighting some of the planets that are visible in the sky at that time. If it wasn't daytime, you'd be able to see it, but since it is daytime, you wouldn't be able to see these planets, but they are still up in the sky. And say we want to look at night, what the simulator would look like. I'm going to click and drag the little button all the way through to nighttime. As you saw, it showed the entire progression of the sunset. And now we're looking at the night sky at roughly 1 a.m. on April 6th, 2024. And so this is what you can expect the simulator to look like. I'm just going to rotate around to see all different directions. And some of these stars are actually highlighted because those are stars that you would see in the night sky, even with light pollution. But there are really cool functions of this simulator, so let's get into them. If you click on the first icon on the bottom, there is an option to see the constellation lines. So let's toggle this on, and you can see all the constellations in the sky. So it has highlighted various constellations. So we see Vega here, that's a star in the constellation Lyra. We see Virgo, we see on the other side Ursa Major, we see Cancer, and there's a whole bunch of different constellations that you can pinpoint using this. And then there's also the option to toggle on constellation art. This is the second icon. So if we toggle that on, we see the art associated with the constellations. I'm going to toggle that off now, just so we can continue using the simulator and see the different functionalities. The next icon over is an option to toggle on or off the atmosphere. So right now the atmosphere is toggled on. This limits our visibility of the stars in the sky. But if we toggle it off, we do see that it is much darker and there's more opportunity to see more stars. And then there is the option to toggle on or off the landscape around. So let's toggle that off. And this is what you see. You see basically the entire sky, northern and southern hemisphere. So since we are after sunset, this is the horizon here. The sun and all the planets that were visible in the sky have now set. So let's readjust this and toggle back on the landscape. The next function that we're going to look at is the option to toggle on or off the visibility of deep sky objects. So toggling this off, we see that the blue circle on the screen disappears. Toggling it back on, we see that it comes back. And this is a deep sky object. This is C20. There are also other ones that will toggle on or off depending on whether you have the deep sky objects option on. So deselecting that, it goes away, selecting it, it comes back, and you can even see some other ones in the distance as well. But this is a really cool function. You can zoom all the way in to see these objects. So let's pick out another one. Let's go over here and zoom in. So this is a star cluster, and if you zoom in, you can see all of the different stars in this cluster. And you can even zoom in even further, click on a specific one, and if you click on it, information about that specific star will pop up on the screen. There's also the option to search for a specific star, planet, celestial body that you want to look at. So I'm going to type in Spica, which is on the screen right now. And it shows up underneath the search bar. We click on it, it'll rotate our view to the star or to the object that you've typed in. You can zoom in, you can just stay at a distance. We're going to zoom in to see it up close. And this is what the star looks like. And on the left-hand side at the top of the screen, there is a description bubble explaining what this star is and some information about it. I'll also now search for a star cluster to see what a different celestial body will look like. Okay, the Pleiades are below the horizon, so I'm going to toggle off the landscape. And now we'll zoom in to see what the Pleiades look like. So like I said before, we can zoom in, we can investigate what this object looks like, and there is a description bubble on the top left-hand side. But since this is a star cluster, we can see lots of different stars in here, not just one. This is the open cluster called the Pleiades. Now zooming back out, adjusting our view and toggling back on the landscape, we can see that there are so many stars in the sky, so many objects in the sky, and you can use this simulator to investigate all of them. Next, I'm going to show you how to use Stellarium Web to simulate what the eclipse on April 8th, 2024 will look like. If you go down to the bottom right, you can adjust the date and time. Right now we have it on April 6th at roughly 1 a.m. And I'm going to progress the time forwards. So I'm going to go to the 8th of April. So I'm going to move the date. And then I'm also going to move the time. So I'm going to go from 12:50 all the way to 2:50 p.m. So as I progressed the time, the night sky shifted. So now we're going to see it get brighter, and this is because the sun is rising. So this is daytime now. This is 10:50, and I'm going to stop at 2:50. So as you saw, the sun moved into view, and so did the moon, because on eclipse day, the moon and the sun are going to be very close to each other. At 2:50 p.m. on April 8th, we are right in the middle of the eclipse. So if I zoom in on the sun and the moon, we actually see that the moon is overlapping the sun. So this is a partial phase of the eclipse on April 8th. Zooming back out, we're going to progress the time even further. So since I adjusted the hour to 2 o'clock, I'm going to now adjust the minutes to roughly when the eclipse maximum will happen. Since Hamilton is in the path of totality, we will see what totality looks like. So progressing the time forward, you can see it's getting dark because the moon is covering more and more of the sun. This is just before totality, and I'm going to zoom in again. And you can see that only a very small crescent of the sun is still visible. And zoomed in still, I'm going to progress the time even more, and you see that even smaller of a crescent of the sun is still visible. And going forward to 3:18, we see that only very, very small part of the sun is visible, and I'm going to zoom out, and we are almost at totality. So I'm going to progress it in seconds now. Okay, we should be at totality now. And I'm going to zoom in, and as you can see, the entire surface of the sun is covered by the moon, and none of the sun is visible. So zooming back out, we see that it is very dark, And during totality, you will see the planets, so Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn will be visible. But this is what you can expect from the eclipse. And the simulator does a really good job at showing what it'll look like for a specific location. Again, progressing the time forwards, I'll use the minute this time. And the eclipse progresses through partial phases, and at roughly 4:30, the eclipse will be done. I will zoom in, and you can see that the moon is no longer covering the sun. Zooming back out, and adjusting the time back to before the eclipse. So using the down arrow, going to 2:30. This is right near the beginning of the eclipse, maybe about half an hour in. The moon is partially covering the sun. I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to look at a different location. So I'm going to search Toronto, and we're going to see what a partial eclipse looks like. So I've clicked Toronto. I'm going to use this location. And again, similar position of the sun and the moon in the sky. And I'm going to progress the time forward using the minute button. And we're going to go all the way until roughly the eclipse maximum. So I'm going to go back a minute. Since this is not in the path of totality, if you are observing the eclipse, it will not actually get this dark, but for the sake of the simulator, they have made it darker. So as we move towards the eclipse maximum, more and more of the sun is covered. But since Toronto is not in the path of totality, there will not be a moment when the moon is fully covering the sun in the sky. And we'll see this as we progress the time forward. So the moon is moving in front of the sun even more, but there will always be a little sliver of it visible. We just passed the eclipse maximum, and now the moon and the sun will move away from each other in the sky, and the moon will eventually no longer cover the sun in the sky. But because Toronto is not in the path of totality, there will be part of the sun visible. Let's go back in time and see this again. So we're moving backwards to see the eclipse maximum once again in Toronto. So this is roughly the eclipse maximum in Toronto. You see that there is still this very thin crescent of the sun visible behind the moon. And this is a partial eclipse. This has been the Stellarium Web Simulator. This program is really great to investigate what is visible in the sky at night, what you can see, and in the daytime, what is up in the sky that we actually can't see. I hope this was really helpful, and I hope you use this program going forward.